What really happened when the storm hit the stage? Was it just a concert or a moment that changed everything for ARMY forever? Stay with us, feel every second, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe as we uncover the emotional truth behind the night Min Yoongi refused to stop performing. Was it courage, or something deeper that kept him standing under the relentless storm when everything else seemed ready to give in? The rain didn't just fall that night. It poured like a test from the sky, drenching the stage, the lights flickering against sheets of water. And yet there he was, Min Yoongi, known globally as Suga of BTS, standing firm, soaked to the bone, but somehow shining even brighter. The crowd had felt it coming long before the first drop hit the ground. There was a strange tension in the air, a quiet anticipation mixed with excitement. Fans clutched their lightsticks tighter, their eyes fixed on the stage as if something unforgettable was about to unfold. And then, without warning, the sky broke open. Rain cascaded down in heavy sheets, turning the stage into a mirror of reflections and chaos. For a brief moment, everything paused, not physically but emotionally, as if thousands of hearts skipped a beat at the same time. Would the show stop? Would the safety concerns outweigh the performance? Would this be the moment the night ended before it truly began? But then a movement. Suga stepped forward, no hesitation, no sign of retreat, just a quiet determination that spoke louder than any announcement. His hair quickly flattened under the rain, droplets tracing down his face like tears that weren't there. His clothes clung to him, heavy and soaked, yet his posture remained unshaken. And when he raised the microphone, the crowd erupted, not just in cheers but in disbelief. Was he really going to continue? The first note cut through the storm, raw and powerful. His voice, steady and grounded, carried across the venue as if the rain itself had decided to listen. It wasn't just a performance anymore, it became a statement. Each lyric felt heavier, more emotional, amplified by the relentless downpour. Fans began to cry, some shouting his name, others simply watching in awe, unable to process the intensity of what they were witnessing. This wasn't part of the script. This wasn't rehearsed, this was real, and that's what made it unforgettable. As the rain intensified, so did his energy. Instead of holding back, Suga moved across the stage with even greater force, his presence commanding, his expression a mix of focus and something deeper, something almost vulnerable. There were moments when he closed his eyes mid-performance, as if absorbing the entire atmosphere, as if the storm itself had become part of the music. Was this defiance, passion, or a silent promise to the fans who had waited so long to see him? The audience responded in kind. No one left, no one looked away. Rain soaked through their clothes, blurred their vision, but they stayed, united in a moment that felt almost cinematic. Lightsticks flickered through the rain like stars refusing to fade, creating a surreal scene that words could barely capture. And then came the unexpected moment, the one that would later flood social media, the one that fans would replay over and over again. In the middle of a verse, Suga smiled, not just a small, fleeting expression, but a genuine, radiant smile that cut through the storm like sunlight. It was as if he was telling everyone without words, "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere." That single expression shifted everything. The tension turned into warmth, the chaos into connection. Fans began to sing louder, their voices merging with his, creating a powerful harmony that even the storm couldn't drown out. Was this the real reason he kept going? Not for the performance, not for the schedule, but for that connection. As the concert continued, every movement became more symbolic. Water splashed under his steps, droplets flew into the air with each motion, turning choreography into something almost poetic. The stage lights reflected off the rain, creating a dreamlike aura around him, as if the entire universe had paused to frame this one moment. Behind the scenes, staff members watched anxiously. Equipment was at risk, timing was uncertain, and yet no one intervened. Perhaps they understood this wasn't something to stop. This was something to witness, and the fans knew it too. Somewhere in the crowd, a voice shouted, "We love you." And it echoed across the venue, picked up by others until it became a chant, a wave of emotion crashing back toward the stage. Suga heard it. You could see it in the way he tilted his head slightly, the way his expression softened for just a second before he continued. That was the exchange, not words, not scripted lines, but something deeper, a silent understanding between an artist and the people who believed in him. As the final song approached, the rain showed no signs of stopping. If anything, it grew heavier, almost as if the night itself didn't want to end. Suga stood at the center of the stage, breathing heavily, completely drenched, yet still standing tall. The music swelled, the crowd's voices rose, and for a moment everything aligned. The storm, the lights, the music, the emotion. Was this the climax? Or just the beginning of a memory that would last forever? When the final note rang out, there was no immediate movement. No quick exit, no rushed goodbye. Just silence broken only by the sound of rain hitting the stage. Suga looked out at the crowd, his gaze lingering as if trying to memorize every face, every light, every moment. And then he bowed deeply. Not as a performer finishing a show, but as someone expressing something far more personal. The crowd erupted again, louder than before, their cheers mixed with tears, their emotions impossible to contain. It wasn't just admiration, it was gratitude, because they knew they had witnessed something rare, something real, something that couldn't be recreated. As he finally walked off the stage, the rain continued to fall, but it felt different now. Softer, almost gentle, as if the storm itself had completed its role in the story. In the hours that followed, clips of the performance spread rapidly. Fans from around the world reacted with shock, admiration, and overwhelming emotion. Comments flooded in, asking the same questions again and again. How could he keep going like that? What was he feeling in that moment? Did he know how much it meant to everyone watching? But perhaps the biggest question remained unanswered. Was this just a concert? Or was it a moment that redefined what it means to be an artist? Because that night under the pouring rain, Min Yoongi didn't just perform, he endured, he connected, he proved something that no storm could ever wash away, and for ARMY it wasn't just unforgettable, it was everything. And yet the story didn't end when the lights dimmed and the stage fell silent. In fact, that was only the beginning of something far more powerful, something that continued to ripple through the hearts of everyone who had witnessed that storm-soaked night. Backstage, the atmosphere shifted from tension to quiet disbelief. Staff members moved quickly, wrapping towels around shoulders, checking equipment, exchanging glances that said more than words ever could. No one needed to ask what had just happened, they all felt it. It wasn't just another successful show. It was something raw, something unfiltered, something that broke through the polished surface of a global performance and revealed the human core beneath it. And at the center of it all was Min Yoongi. He sat for a moment, water still dripping from his hair, his breathing slowly returning to normal. There was no dramatic reaction, no grand statement. Just a quiet stillness, as if he was processing the weight of everything that had unfolded. But those who were close enough noticed the subtle details, the way his hands trembled slightly, the way his gaze lingered on nothing in particular, the way exhaustion and emotion seemed to intertwine in a way that couldn't easily be separated. What was going through his mind at that moment? Was it relief that the performance had gone on without interruption? Was it concern for the fans who had stayed despite the harsh weather? Or was it something deeper? Something more personal that only he could understand? Outside, the fans were still there. Even as the rain softened into a steady drizzle, many refused to leave. They stood in clusters, soaked and shivering, replaying the night over and over again as if afraid the memory might slip away if they stopped talking about it. Some laughed through their exhaustion, others wiped away tears they didn't expect to shed, and many simply stared at the now empty stage, as if hoping it might come alive again. "I've never seen anything like that," one voice said, barely above a whisper. "It didn't feel real," another replied, and that sentiment echoed everywhere, because it truly didn't. It felt like a scene from a film, perfectly imperfect, beautifully chaotic, emotionally overwhelming. The kind of moment that doesn't just happen but imprints itself, leaving a mark that lingers long after the night is over. As hours passed, the digital world began to catch up with reality. Videos surfaced from every angle, capturing different fragments of the same story. A close-up of Suga's rain-soaked expression, a wide shot of the crowd glowing under the storm, a fleeting moment where his voice cracked not from weakness but from intensity. Each clip told a slightly different version of the same truth, and with each upload the reactions grew stronger. Fans who hadn't been there felt it through their screens. Comments flooded in at an unstoppable pace, filled with disbelief, admiration, and a kind of emotional vulnerability that only moments like this could unlock. "Why am I crying just watching this?" one comment read. "He didn't have to keep going, but he did," said another. "This is why we love him." Beneath the praise, there was also concern. Was he okay? Did he push himself too far? Did anyone check on him after? Because as much as the moment was celebrated, it also revealed something undeniable: the immense pressure, the relentless expectations, and the quiet sacrifices that often go unseen. And perhaps that's what made it even more meaningful, because it wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence. It was about standing firm when everything around you tells you to stop. The next day, the rain was gone, as if the storm had never existed. The sky was clear, almost too calm, creating a stark contrast to the chaos of the night before. But the aftermath was everywhere, in conversations, in trending topics, in the lingering emotions that refused to fade. Some described it as legendary, others called it unforgettable, but a few used a word that stood out the most: human. Because that's what people saw, not just an artist on stage, but a person who chose to keep going despite discomfort, despite uncertainty, despite everything. And that choice mattered. It mattered to the fan who had traveled miles just to be there. It mattered to the one who had been having a difficult week and found unexpected comfort in that performance. It mattered to those who needed a reminder that strength doesn't always look like perfection. It often looks like endurance. Later, when Suga finally reappeared, there was no dramatic retelling of the event. No attempt to turn it into something bigger than it already was. Just a quiet acknowledgement, a subtle expression of gratitude that spoke volumes in its simplicity. And maybe that was the final piece of the story, because the night wasn't about proving anything. It wasn't about headlines or viral moments. It was about connection. Connection that formed under the harshest conditions, strengthened by shared experience, and sealed in a memory that would never truly fade. So the question remains, lingering even now: if the storm hadn't come, would the moment have felt the same, or did the rain in all its intensity reveal something that could only be seen when everything else was stripped away? One thing is certain. That night under the pouring sky, Min Yoongi didn't just stand on a stage. He stood with thousands of hearts. And together, they turned a storm into something unforgettable.